with the topic, You Must Be Perfect, why it is your responsibility as an entrepreneur. Give him a big hand of applause. Noel Seitner!
Dankeschön. Okay, perfect. That's also the topic. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has been working on this event and who has been responsible for making it a reality. I also want to thank everybody in this room in advance for listening. So, my name is Noel. I was born in Carinthia and I grew up in Carinthia. I'm 21 years old and I want to share my story so far. My grandmother is a Sudeten German, which means when the Nazis occupied Czechia, she had to flee the country. At the age of 8, she had to leave her house, and she didn't know it then, but she would never return to that house ever again. They fled to Bavaria, where they were the refugees. And as the refugees, they quickly learned that it's important for them to not stand out, to not show their faces, and to not make themselves known. From that moment on, my family was cursed, and the motto of that curse was, "What will the people think?" Or in German, was werden denn die Leute denken? That's the sentence my mother always had to hear from my grandmother. What will the people think if you wear that dress? What will the people think if you have bad grades? What will the people think if you hang around with these sorts of people? Fast forward around 60 years, my family moves from the city to a small village. I go to a new school, I'm 7 years old, and I go into that classroom and I notice that I'm scared, that I don't really want to be here. And I notice the sentence in the back of my head, what will the people think? You see, even though my mother never said that sentence because she really fucking hated it, it became a curse on our family. And wherever we went, wherever we looked, the sentence, what will the people think, was always with us. You see, a curse is a serious thing. It does not just mean what the people think is important. It means what the people think is the only thing that is important. So, it also means that what the people think ultimately defines how valuable I am, how much money I have, how famous I am, how many friends I have, how much influence I have. All these things determine how valuable I am. So in order to be ultimately valuable, you must be perfect. Yeah. When I was 18 years old, I was sitting in class and I was listening to the same things my teachers were telling us for the last 12 years. We were talking about chemical bonds and integral calculation, and they were trying to teach me every significant date of the last 200 years with failing to teach me why that date was significant in the first place. So when I looked to my left and to my right, I saw confusion in the faces of my peers. School should prepare us for life, and after 12 years in the school system, I could confidently say that I didn't even know what life is. So I decided to quit. And I talked with 3 of my friends. You can see them up here. and we decided to do something about it. If nobody can teach us how we can find ourselves, if nobody can teach us how we can figure out what we want from life, and if nobody can teach us how we can get there, we, the students, will just have to do it by ourselves. And so we created a community, and we called that community the Self-Actualizing Youth. We called it that because we believe that even though maybe people are telling you that a certain way is the best way to live, or even though maybe there's an objective truth on how we should live, in the end, we, the students, this generation has to decide by themselves how they want to live. And so I asked myself, how do I want to live? It certainly wasn't that I wanted to live by this dogma of what will the people think. So I started to face that. I started to face my fear. I started to, maybe you can say, stare into the abyss, and I started to forgive people. I started to forgive myself. And that way, I became more confident, I became happier, but also I became less interested in my work as a, I would say, youth coach. Because why work on anything if you don't care anymore what the people think about you if you wouldn't? At the same time, I knew that what I was doing was important. I understood rationally that the work I was doing was my purpose. But I had no emotional connection to it. When I had the opportunity to, and you know this from yourself probably, when I had the opportunity to work on the next workshop or look at Netflix, I would always choose Netflix. So, I wanted to do something about it. And so earlier this year, I started reading the Bible again. I wanted to extract out of it that very thing, that very emotional connection. And I did that the following way. I opened my Bible, read it for 30 minutes, tried to really study it. Often I only got through one paragraph in 30 minutes. I did that actually together with ChatGPT, if you don't believe it. And then I took out my rosary and I prayed for 30 minutes and I thought about the things I just learned. And now I want you all to, just for a moment, throw away all your preconceptions of what you have that Jesus Christ might be. Maybe you think it's a person that you can come to face in heaven, and something you believe, we Christians believe, a higher being that arts in heaven. Put that all away and just listen for a second. Because I noticed something. I was praying the Sorrowful Rosary. The Sorrowful Rosary describes the path of Christ to the cross, with the cross, and on the cross. And I noticed the following thing. First of all, I noticed that the words purpose and God are basically the same thing. You can look at it for now as a kind of a metaphor. It's more than that, but it makes it easier to think of it in that way. So I was praying the Sorrowful Rosary, and I noticed that Jesus Christ is a personification of the perfect person within our society. That means the perfect person takes on all the stress in the world, gives up their own life for the life of others, just like Jesus Christ did when he sweat blood. The perfect person takes up his or her responsibility and takes up the pain of this world, just like Jesus Christ did when he was whipped until he was unrecognizable. The perfect person endures the mockery of this world because he or she knows that what he or she is doing is right. The perfect person takes up the responsibility and the suffering of this world, which is exactly what Jesus Christ symbolized when he took up the cross. And the perfect person, in the end, does the right thing always, even if it might cause his ultimate or her ultimate demise, just like Jesus Christ did when he died on the cross. That's what it symbolizes. What I want you all to understand, and by the way, I don't really care if you call that idea Christ or you just call it the perfect person. What I want you to understand is that the reason we are here today, happier and healthier than ever in history before, is because people like Gandhi, like Mother Teresa, like Edward Jenner, like Martin Luther King, or the people that cleaned up Chernobyl, different teachers, different policemen, firefighters, etc., etc. All these people gave up their comfort and their happiness for a better future. And not just a better future, the best future. And in order to create the best future, you must be perfect. That's what it is all about. And it was not, or maybe think about it this way. Why or how can we be perfect? Perfection is not achieved by believing that I'm only ultimately valuable if I'm perfect. That's not the way we can achieve perfection. Perfection is achieved by one thing, and one thing only, and that is perfect love. When Mother Teresa looked at the children, when Gandhi looked at his country, what did they feel? They felt love. And it was not like that Mother Teresa said, well, I want to help 1,000 children, and if it's less than that, it's not worth it. No. We all know that the requirement for a perfect person to give up themselves for a greater good is not 1,000 people, it's not 100, it's not 10, it is one. It is just like C.S. Lewis put it once, when Christ died, he died for you individually just as much as if you would have been the only person in the world. And that exactly determines how valuable you are. So it is your responsibility to be perfect. Not because perfection will make you ultimately valuable. You are already ultimately valuable. No matter how many bad things you have done, you're exactly as valuable as, for example, Mother Teresa or Gandhi. The reason it is your responsibility to be perfect is it's the only way we can create the best future. Be perfect. Be perfect. Not because you want to be loved. Be perfect because you know every insufficiency will cause suffering. Be perfect because you know every good deed will get us closer to this paradise that we are all striving for. Be perfect. Strive for perfection because you want the world to be a better place. Strive for perfection so there are less wars, so less people like my grandmother have to flee from them. So, even though people tell us perfection is impossible, seek it anyways, because if you aim for the stars, you will at least land on the moon. And if I had to put all of this message in one sentence, it would be, don't seek perfection so you are loved, seek perfection because you love. And thank you.